Hey Econ 200, this is Dr. Win. I'm wanting to start a playlist of videos linking COVID-19 to the lecture material in economics. And this first video that I wanted to do is just to give you a sense of the rate of growth of COVID-19 right now and how serious that is. Okay, so as of this morning, the last I checked, we were at about 14,250 cases, confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the United States. Now, in a population of 330 million, that's not very many. Okay, it's a pretty small percentage. So what's scary about COVID-19 is not how many cases we have today, it's how many cases we could have a month from now, 2 months from now, and so on. Okay, the relevant number here is 35%. That's the average rate of growth per day of confirmed COVID-19 cases for about the last 2.5 weeks, okay? So just how fast a rate of growth is 35%. I want to illustrate this with the notion of an investment. So let's say that I gave you $1, okay? And let's also say that the stock market was returning 35% per day. It was growing at 35% per day. How long do you think it would take you to go from that $1 investment to $1 million? All right, well, let's do this with a spreadsheet. I've got my $1 investment, and every day I'm going to make that investment go up by 1.35 or increase by 35%. So as you can see, on January 2nd, you would have $1.35, and on January 3rd, you'd have $1.82. And on January 4th, you've got almost $2.50. All right. So far, it's not looking like it's growing particularly quickly. You might look at those initial numbers and say, well, shoot, to get $1 million, I mean, I don't know, maybe 1 million days. Okay. Maybe 500,000 days, maybe 10,000 days to get to $1 million. Okay. So let's actually see how long that takes. Okay. So I just fill that down for the year. And as you can see, I mean, January 10th, we're at less than $15. By the time you get to January 30th, okay, $6,000, that's not so bad. But let's keep scrolling down, okay? Look at this. Here we've got February 14th. That's Valentine's Day. By Valentine's Day, you have over $500,000 if you're gaining just 35% per day, okay? And you started with just $1. Just about 3 days later, you break $1 million. So by February 17th, you would have earned $1 million return on your $1 investment at 35% per day. All right, but it keeps going from there. Let's keep scrolling down. What do we got next? We've got March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. By St. Patrick's Day, you would have over $8 billion. Okay, you'd be in, I don't know, the top 100 to 200 wealthiest people in the United States. Keep scrolling down. About 10 days later, March 26th, how much do we got? You're almost at $120 billion. Okay, that's more money than Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has $112 million last I checked, although since the stock market is crashing, it might be significantly less than that by now. All right, okay? All right, guys. And then the last number I'm going to show you is if you went till Easter, right? You can see that I've already run out of room in the number column there. You go to Easter, you're at almost $20 trillion, okay? Now that's only 103 days into the year, and you're already at almost $20 trillion, more money than anybody has ever had. $20 trillion, you've almost made U.S. GDP, okay, annual U.S. GDP by April 12th. If you started with $1 and you gained 35 cents, not 35 cents, 35% per day. Okay, if we go down to the very last day of the year, you get down to New Year's Eve. Okay, how big is that? The numbers are enormous. All right, this is 373 times 10 to the 45th power. I had to look up what that is in words. That's 373 quadrillion dollars that you would have. How big is that? It's impossible to wrap your mind around it. Let me put it this way. This is 373 times 10 to the 45th power. The number of stars in the universe is, I believe it's 1 times, it's 1 times 10 to the 21st power. All right. So you have practically, you've got about the number of stars in the universe squared is roughly how many dollars you would have by December 31st. Okay. Now, there aren't that many people in the world. There aren't that many people in the United States either, for that matter. We've got about 330 million people in the U.S. So clearly, we're not going to have 8 billion infections or 20 trillion infections. We'd run out of people well before that. And beyond that, pandemics don't grow at an exponential rate forever. Eventually, they're going to peter off. It's going to tail off in kind of an S-shaped curve, not a J-shaped curve. Okay. So this is just for illustration purposes. But the beginning of a pandemic, that does follow exponential growth, and that can grow very quickly. And it can very quickly go from you don't know anybody who's sick to everybody you know is sick, or a very large percentage of people you know is sick. More than that, the percentage change is a big deal. Okay, 35% is a big number, but it turns out if you can bring that number down even by fairly modest percentage changes, you can slow the growth rapidly. So let's go to that. This graph that I have here, I've got three curves here. The blue line is the 35% growth line. So that's basically taking those numbers in the table that I just showed you and graphing them on a curve. But then this orange line, this is what would the number of infections be if they started with 1 on January 1st and they grew at 30% per day instead of 35% per day. And then the gray line is what if you could push that number down to 25% per day. And as you can see, it's not even close, right? Just reducing by 5 percentage points from 35% to 30%. At 35%, by March 1st, you're looking at 66 million cases, and you're only a couple days away from breaking 100 million cases. If you get that number down to 30% per day, well then by March 1st, you're looking at a little less than 7 million. You are, going up to almost 30 million a few days later, but it is substantially lower than it was at 35% growth. If you can get it down to 25%, then by March 1st, you haven't even cracked a million. You're at 815,000, and a couple of days later, you're going to be at close to 2 million. All right. So keep in mind, all of those numbers, 35%, 30%, 25%, they're all way too big. Okay. Any of those numbers would, if they went on unchecked, would infect everybody in the United States, a couple of months later. But just a few percentage points difference can reduce the number of infections, or at least delay infections by a substantial amount of time. And that's really what we need, is time, okay? Time for the healthcare system to ramp up, time for people to figure out vaccines and good treatments for this. And so that's why I'm telling you guys, you need to do your part. This upcoming week, I get it. It's spring break, and you want it to be somewhere else, doing something else, probably with a lot of other people. But this is just not the time to do that. And I get, believe me, guys, I understand. This was supposed to be my spring break, too. I was supposed to be today in Austria snowshoeing in the Alps, but I've had to cancel those plans. What am I doing? I'm sitting in my bedroom making YouTube videos while my 5 kids are out playing in the hallway. Okay, we're all making sacrifices. I'm sorry that's the way it is, but please, for now, practice your social distancing. Make sure you're keeping good hygiene, washing those hands, and we got to get through this together. So thanks, guys. I'll be posting more videos as soon as I can, and in the meantime, be sure to be flexible, communicate, and stay awesome.